welcome all to this talk about erotic art in Greek and Roman sculpture. That is what we're talking about. Okay. Right, I can't remember what the title is, but anyway, we're going to just talk about what I'm doing here and how, what I'm learning, and there's going to be sort of environmentalism, although I'm not an environmentalist. It just turns out that much of the way I'm living turns out to be presto quite environmentalist, so we're going to talk about a few of those aspects. For those who don't know me, I don't know if anyone doesn't know me, my name's Andrew Hood and I'm a stone sculptor, and there I am with a piece of sculpture. So I'm going to just, because I labour under this anxiety, everyone thinks I'm just a scruffy person who just does scruffy for a living. So I'm going to just show a few sculptures to show I am the real deal. I am actually a sculptor, and I can, you know, I'm not just annoying. So I'm going to just. I've got to do this every single time. So, right. So, just to further introduce myself, I was doing a normal proper job, what they call proper job. I was an employee, having paid holidays and a pension and all that sort of stuff. A semi-detached house with 2 children and a wife and all that sort of stuff. And then the company I was working for, which was a food company, Whitbread technically, wanted to move up to Cambridgeshire, and I couldn't go. I didn't want to go. And because the rule is, if it's more than 30 miles away, you can take redundancy and get a severance pay. That's what I did. And my family kids were growing up, or grown up, and were teenagers going off in their own world. And my wife and I had decided we didn't really have much in common anymore. There's no animosity, but we decided we're not partners anymore. So I was able to gallop off, very actually, to Stonemasonry College in Weymouth and study stonemasonry. I didn't know the difference between, and I don't suppose anyone else does, the difference between stonemasonry and sculpture at the time. So, and that's quite advantageous because stonemasonry is a very, very good grounding for those who want to work in stone. It's accuracy in stone, engineering in stone as well. So that was a fortunate lack of knowledge there. Oh, that's a cornerstone, by the way, in case anyone was interested. And Romilly showed me the workings of actually. I borrowed one from Merle to see the mechanism how to make a Roman quernstone, and it had metalwork and stuff like that. Romilly showed me a much better, more efficacious system. So that's what I did there. And yeah, I even do horrible things like gravestones and letter carving and that sort of stuff. Okay, so so after doing the stone carving course, and redundancy money ran out quite quickly, and I was actually living on my credit card for quite a while. So I thought by this time I was deciding I want to become a sculptor. So I got a residency with Englefield Garden Centre, and some people who may have go down there often may remember the tiny little canopy I had in the yard there. And I got my commissions from people passing. It's quite a good way to start. However, I started not having enough money to live by for a long time. Everything started going down. It was actually quite interesting to see the process that happens to you as a person and your life infrastructure. So to save money, I started, first of all, I got rid of the TV subscriptions, and that was like £100 to be saved. And then the landline. In those days, if you didn't have a landline, you weren't really a proper person. Anyone who's just on a mobile phone, something definitely dodgy about you, especially your business. Or something. If you're running a business off a mobile, it was dodgy. So getting rid of the landline was a psychological big thing. It saved me lots of money. And insurances went, pension went, everything started to go. Eventually became sort of very lightweight, and you can move around and do stuff without worrying about having to pay the bill and things like that. It felt quite liberating, but at the same time, shameful. You know, I didn't tell anyone I was doing these things. I was telling everyone everything was fine. You know, so there was this kind of shame, this not telling everyone, but at the same time feeling quite good about it. And then things like I've always been a runner. Lately I haven't been running much at all, but I found that I couldn't afford to replace my running shoes. Running shoes cost £150 a time, and they last about 6 to 8 months or whatever, and you go get some new ones. So 3 weeks after my shoes deteriorated beneath my feet, I thought, I can't not run anymore, so I'm going to just go around the recreation. It was a big green area. It was down by the Save Centre, that was called in those days, Sainsbury's. It was a nice big green area. So I started running around that and found that quite fun. This sort of contraction and doing without started to gather pace. So there were more and more things. So there were things like not eating properly, finding, oh, what am I going to do to find something to eat, you know, things like that. And you become quite inventive. You also find that you can take people notice actually, you think, oh, you're looking a bit slim, Andrew, these days, are you eating enough? And people just happen to bring food round and things like that. And that still happens to this day, actually, I'm very pleased to say. And I remember there's one chap who I dearly adore, really. He came round and said, oh, I bought all these things. I didn't mean to buy them. I just found myself buying them. Do you want them, Andrew? And it was kind of like, I instantly saw that he bought them for me because he thought, oh, we were losing quite a lot of weight. That was my neighbour when I was at my place I was working. So I was kind of left with, so ultimately there came a point where I needed to get an actual studio because the commissions were getting bigger and I wanted to do more nudes and things like that, and I couldn't have those out in Engelford Garden Centre where children and all sorts of people were walking around. Not just children, other people might just be dancing. There was one where I did a little portrait of my daughter, and there was nothing to see. She was 18 months at the time. She was exactly the same size as this block of stone I had. So I did a portrait of her, a full body portrait, kneeling in the bath. And someone took great offence to that. And so I thought, I need a studio. So I got the studio, and then ultimately there came a time when I thought, well, not thought, it was obvious, it was either a house or the studio. And it was a no-brainer. I just thought, and I don't know if anyone else would do this in the same situation, say, the house has got to go. I have to have a studio. I want to be a sculptor. The house is what's got to go. And so that's the sort of thing that I was left with. So eventually I was left with having to sleep outdoors, and that meant trespassing, because in order to get somewhere secure to sleep in, and then go into woodlands. And in the Pang Valley, 100% of the land is very, very privately owned. And I mean, when I say very privately owned, I mean it's privately owned, and if you go anywhere near it or breathe into it, you will be shot at the door. And then I found, just generally speaking, I found that, you can gather food off the ground. And hunting, I didn't do it first, and I've still not really got into a full-fledged hunting situation yet. Barefoot, I talked about swimming outdoors, started swimming just outdoors, couldn't afford to go to swimming pools anymore, swim outdoors. And all these things were sort of, at first, things that I was not ashamed of, but knew they were wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't go into the gravel pits, or you shouldn't go into someone's private river, or part of the river. It's the wrong thing to do. So it was all surreptitious, and what's the word? Stealth. And they actually call the way I sleep today stealth camping, which is extraordinary. And but I still had sculpture. I still could listen to music. I could still read, and I still had community and family. And those are the things that kind of kept me feeling, oh, I am a proper human being. I'm not just a failure at life. And so we're going to go through these things, and I'll explain to you the importance and how that has enhanced me and how it enhanced other people as well, I suspect, if they did a little bit of it as well. So this is home. This is one of my bedrooms. I have 365 of them, actually. I don't know how many bedrooms you've got in your house. And I go to a different place depending on the conditions. So if it's stormy weather, I'll go to a place where the lie of the land can protect me from the wind. And if it's very stormy weather, I won't go where there's big trees like this and could potentially fall on me or drop a limb on me. So can you see what this is? It's a little tarpaulin. It's not a tent. It's a tarpaulin. Underneath is an old tarpaulin, which I now use as ground sheet. And this starts to perish, it becomes ground sheet, and the old one goes away. Sleeping bag and a bivy bag. They're all well over 20 years old, so they're not really up to scratch anymore. But it's just a marvellous way to live. This starting to do this, and you start to find that you have a relationship with the land which I never ever had before. So I suspect there are many people alive today in the Western world who never touch the land in any shape, size, or form. They have tyres, shoes, houses, gravel, tarmac, or whatever. They never actually touch the land, either with their hands or with their feet. And whereas while lying down there, I'm breathing in all the organisms and the fungal spores and things like that. So there's a very, very deep relationship with the land. And also, when you're looking for somewhere, when the day comes to an end, I don't think about where I'm going to go to sleep until the end of the day. And I think, oh my goodness, it's time to go to sleep. Where should I go? And then you have to take into consideration things like the landscape, the season, the weather at that time, what the weather's going to do during the night. So, go on the internet and see what the weather's going to do during the night. See where the wind's blowing, and all these things you have to bring into play. So, can you imagine it? When you finish watching TV of an evening and you think, oh, I'm going to clean the teeth, go to bed, flop down. That's all you have to do. You have to walk over there and into bed, and maybe upstairs if you're really unlucky or something like that. Whereas I'm in that same mindset. I just want to flop down. And but you have to keep yourself up and say, right, okay, no, this is serious. I've got to get out there. I've got to get out there. Set this up. And the other thing about trespass is that you're not allowed on the land, so no one must see you do this. And therefore, you've got to go out after dark and set up in the dark. And sometimes absolutely pitch black. In fact, the last 3 nights have been absolutely pitch black. I don't know where the moon went. It came to full moon, or the day before full moon, and then it's vanished. I don't know what's happened. Has anyone seen it? It's been very, very dark. So all this is having to be set up. No, but it usually waxes and then wanes. It's done. It didn't quite finish waxing, and then it's vanished. I don't know if anyone else noticed that. I don't know. I've been lying that night looking, where are you? It doesn't happen. So there is a relationship with the land which I find very healthy. And in a minute I'll go through to the point where the science behind it. So there's fashion and there's not fashion. There's people all want to do this sort of thing called divvying and stuff like that, or stealth camping. So there's a lot of people who like go out and do this just a few times. And so that there's science behind you saying, oh, this is the right thing to do, and then there's all sorts of other parties who are interested in this sort of thing. And I just have to do it every night anyway, whether I want to or not. So let's see what the next thing is. Oh yeah, so don't always, if the weather looks like it's going to be fine, this is it. This is what we do. Just a little ground sheet. Well, everything except for the cover. One thing I'm finding here is that I wish Nick Hayes is here, because he goes on about unfettered public access to the land. And I am for that as well, and everyone, like mine says, yeah, we should. And how dare these private landowners keep us off? But for me, the last thing I want is for Joe Public to suddenly find themselves as they're going to have a walk with their dog in the morning, some strange bloke asleep on the floor in the woods. So it's very, very important that I find somewhere that nowhere is, which is inaccessible. Private land's ideal for that. Over here, where everyone's saying, come to our woods, we've got permissive path, you can do whatever you like. I find that actually problematic for me, because it means I have to take great efforts to find somewhere that people just won't want to go to. When I first arrived, I did actually find myself, well, there was a lady who lives not far from here, who tripped over one of my guidelines, and who just happened to stumble into me, and I have woken up sometimes, come off the footpath into the undergrowth, and pushed right into the undergrowth, and to find that there was another path which I hadn't seen because it was pitch black. I was sleeping right next to the path. Thankfully, I don't think anyone arrived. So that's that. Okay, so the barefoot thing. So we'll talk about that a bit more. It came out of necessity at first. I wanted to run. I had to take off. Had to do without shoes to run. And then I found actually, in order to successfully run uninjured and without pain, then you had to be barefoot all the time. So I couldn't put other shoes or walking shoes or daytime shoes between runs. I had to remain unshod all the time. And there's all sorts of interesting anecdotes I can tell. I spent the whole night talking about that. Being lifted up bodily by the security people in the Oracle shopping centre, because it was a time when the government had told us we must wear face masks. We're allowed out to the shops, we must wear face masks. It's a government mandate, you must. But the security people said, well, we can't ask people why they're not wearing a mask, because they may have health reasons. They're allowed to, just let them in. They've got their mask. They may infect someone and kill someone, but your bare feet are more offensive and more dangerous than anything we can possibly conceive of. So they got 4 people. I didn't resist, I didn't shout or anything like that. I just wanted to see how far they'd go. And they bodily lifted me out, pulled me outside the army. So I get all sorts of interest and reaction to bare feet, which is extraordinary. And I do remind people. I said, if I had my own way, it would be just my shoes I was doing without. So they're lucky. I'm just doing that. So oh yes, I mean that's the other thing. So that's the other thing. So no swimming pools, so available to me. And I'll just go back to that. One of the little projects I did 2 years ago, no, started 3 years ago, and I did it the following year as well, was I wanted to demonstrate that my lifestyle is as good as those who live in the normal Western ways lifestyle. So I wanted to demonstrate, because I had been the lifeguard at Golden Valley as a part-time job, and I wanted to say, so I was sort of more exposed to swimming pools, and all the poses used to swim up and down, thinking, oh, I'm just great. And I just think, well, you've got, every 25 metres you've got a wall to push off against, so you can do that, and you're in warmth, and it's just an easy way to swim. So I wanted to demonstrate, I wanted to do a 200-metre butterfly as fast as I could. You know, I'm quite old now, so it'll never be Olympic standards or anything like that, but I wanted to demonstrate that I could achieve a decent 200-metre butterfly time in a river, or a lake, or whatever, and not in the warmth, you know, whatever the ideal conditions. And I think I did all right, actually. I couldn't really go into the river. It's the Thames down where the Workings Water Centre is, and everyone knows down there. It's actually an ideal place. It's about 80 metre wide there, so that's quite a good length, if you know what I mean. And you have to turn around and go back again. So I treated that as my 200 metres, because I thought, because of the flow, I haven't got the water push off each time. That will count as the 200 metres. So yeah, we'll leave that as 160. So that's what I'm doing now. And unfortunately, these days, and I'll go on about the problems with this type of lifestyle, all the things that are interfering with it, because unfortunately we can't get the rivers now. We all know why. Foraging, something I'm finding that when you start just grabbing stuff off the bushes and things like that, you find people offer their knowledge about it. So after just, you know, you learn something about, maybe if you learn one thing a month, one thing you can forage a month, after 2 years you've learned quite a lot. And now I can just go around the countryside and just pick, you know, just picking all the time. And I know that there's probably 100 more things I still don't know about, which I can still pick from, you know, and consume, and apparently they're all very, very good for you. Again, we'll talk about some of that shortly. So, hunting is something I've said for the past 5 years, I'm going to start hunting, and I'll be coming out of the woods with the caught things, and the thought of, what's the word? Trespassing and hunting, what's it called? Poaching, that's the word, yes. I just like the idea of being a poacher, I don't know why. My parents had a coffee table, beautifully illustrated coffee table book about paintings about poaching. And it was obviously a very romanticised idea of people in Scotland getting their pheasant off the land and you know, evading the gamekeeper and stuff like that. But now I find that my efforts to start hunting, and me and you've been doing a little bit of starting up doing that, haven't we? But now I find there's a squirrel catcher. He's quite happy to just drop squirrels up with me every so often. They deliver them like that. Already eviscerated, so all I have to do is quarter them and skin them and the rest of it. And they're absolutely delicious, I have to say. So, yeah, so tree climbing as well. Just, if you're finding something to do, if you've got nothing like you haven't got television subscriptions, and eventually I've got rid of the television. My ex-wife took it away. She said, "This is my television, I'm not having that." You find all sorts of things to do. Again, they're fun things to do. They're really rewarding. You get out of the tree feeling, oh, you know, just enjoy, you know, sometimes you might just sit up in the tree for ages. So that's quite fun. My only form of transport, really, although that's off the road at the moment as well, so it's just down to the feet at the moment. So that's really quite configured to go out for the night. It's just 2 panniers, and I can't remember, just a raw mat or something on the back there, I can't remember. And that's all you need to go out and find yourself somewhere to sleep at night. The bicycle gives you much more versatility. Where I was in the Pang Valley, it's quite close to the M4, so I used to check which way the wind was blowing before setting off, because you don't want to be downwind of the M4, because it's got about a 5-mile wide sound footprint, and so you want to be upwind of the M4, so that gives you, sometimes it takes an hour to get away from the sound of the motorway. These days now, as I'm further away from the motorway, it's aircraft sound is all you can hear now. So we'll go on about that in a second. Okay. Again, in a house, your ablutions is a different thing, and I haven't got the details with me, but you may or may not know how much water you'll use per day and how much water per flush is used. It's astonishing. So water, although it seems free because it's coming out of the sky, it takes energy to pump it up into the water towers. It does have an energy cost, and also just the resource of water itself. I just leave a bowl of water there. I just wash my hands every so often. Have what's called a place where I can just wee into, and I just empty that one today. And I think it's a really quite rather nice way of living. You're not really causing any harm. You're not doing anything that's causing global warming or anything like that. So I'm actually quite happy with that. I was thinking of something rather aesthetically wonderful about a stone pile of bricks, a pile of stones with a bowl in there. Yeah, so just going to. Right, family life, okay, so you can still go off and I try and get them to come out. Very often they say, oh, come round, Andrew, come round, and they want you to sit inside and run TV or, and consuming stuff that's in plastic bags, and it's just it's a consuming get together. It's, rather than doing this, so I'll try and get them. That's Mortimer, by the way. Nice view of Mortimer. So I'll try to get them to come out. Right. Okay, so I think this is the last photograph of things I do in the sort of thing. This is a photograph. This is damp ground, and this is dry, where I've been in a slight compressed area. That is the sum total of my effect on the world for 10 hours every single day. And I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. And that's why now, and I've noticed, I've showed you some photographs of some of the sculptures I've done, and I think to myself, why don't you love my sculptures? Why aren't you buying sculptures of them? Everyone, why aren't you buying sculptures of them? I think more people are interested in this, the way, apparently lives in the woods, or all that sort of stuff. So that's why I started talking about it. And I think this is worth talking about. I haven't got a fridge running when that goes, although I have got a fridge running today. The fridge is off most of the time. Mobile phone's off, don't take that with me. I mean, can you think of all the things that are running when you're asleep? I don't know how many things you do have. I'm not here to say what you're doing is wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying, when I go out, I take great pride in having nothing on at all. With the bicycle light, okay, I have the bicycle light, which takes me out, but that's on for half an hour, maybe an hour, and then it's daytime by the time I get out. That's one of my favourites. I've got loads of photographs. I've got some photographs where it's all icy around here, frosty, and it's just a warm patch where I've been, and I've got other photographs where it's tall grass and just compressed down where I've been, like a deer. And I find that's, 8 to 10 hours, that's the sum total effect of Andrew's life in the woods. That's obviously being packed up, that's just the bicycle still covered up, because obviously the bicycle needs to be covered up as well, because it can catch light, and this is a gamekeeper out of his torch. I don't want it to be obvious. Right, so the next things are, right, so we're going to go on about, probably can't read, so it says, there's this thing called PubMed Central. Has anyone heard of that? It's a very, very good resource for scientific research. I don't know, James says he does lots of science. He's really, no, it's rubbish, don't go there. Is it New Scientist? That's rubbish, don't go there, isn't it?
That's definitely right.
Yeah. Anyway, so when I've heard about things, people have said in sort of, sometimes I think, well, is that apocryphal, or is it actually true? So I've gone online and tried to find out various things that people said, oh, that's good. When you go in the woods, you're breathing in things that the trees give off. I can't remember what it's called now. And so I typed it in, looked it up. And this resource is really good. And one of the ones I came across was a chap who's gone out into Africa and elsewhere to study how tribal people sleep naturally. And he's also looked at the great apes to see how they sleep. And so he's found that forest dwellers and nomads suffer fewer muscular skeletal lesions than civilized, in inverted commas, people. Nature's atomic manipulator during sleep is the kickback against the vertebrae by the ribs when the chest is prevented from movement by the forest floor. Various resting postures correct different joints, and pillows are not necessary. I always use something under my head. But it's interesting, I have found, sleeping on the ground, directly on the ground, I can now sleep anywhere, and I feel refreshed in the morning. And when I go around to frienders, that's not very often, that's less than once a month these days, I get out of bed feeling, you know, it's just like it's not the same as when I get up there. I'm not saying I jump up like a frightened gazelle, but I do feel like I'm up and ready to go when it's time to get up. And although when it's very cold, I'm very reluctant to get out of my sleeping bag, obviously, but functionally, physically, I'm ready to go, which is extraordinary. And so when I was talking about the science behind things, every aspect of my strange life these days is showing that scientifically it's very good. And I wonder why we as a civilization go off in these different directions. I think it's all to do with a perceived sense of comfort and wanting constant safety, constant warmth, and just constant comfort. That's the problem I think we're up against all the time. And I feel quite privileged through circumstances that have been forced upon me originally to find actually many of those things are not actually what we should be doing. I don't know what I should do. So this is one of the things about the seeking positions. That is me undercover. Trying one of the positions. So one of the positions that so there are several positions. Most of them are lying on your side with your shoulder away, so you're not just leaping on your shoulder. And it goes on at length about the penis, because apparently people who sleep naked in Africa, they need to make sure their legs up so their member isn't getting chewed by the local insect. Apparently that's a thing. But in the Himalayas, Tibetans, they apparently there's lots of conflict in Tibet, in some parts of Tibet. I guess it's to do with China, I don't know. So the people who are living up there, they sleep like this. So their ears, both ears are able to hear, and they hear stereophonically, rather than just one ear being able to hear. And if they've got nothing, they haven't got anything to put underneath them, so they just have their cover. But that means less of their body is in contact with the ground, which will be wet and cold. So it's just their forearms and their knees and stuff. So I've been trying, and I stopped just listening, but I must try again. See how long I can sleep like that. I can sleep like that for about, well, not even sleep properly. I can stay like that for about an hour, and then my joints are starting to say, well, let's not do that anymore. But I'm quite keen to pursue that, see, because I think that's a rather good way. The only thing is, it puts your profile up, so you can be seen, if there's not a decent amount of undergrowth, you can potentially be seen more than if I was just lying on my belly or my back. But this actually also is very warm because you're breathing underneath you, so you've got lots of warm air beneath you. And the other thing is, what was I going to say? You're ready to go again. You're in a position to sort of get up immediately, which is why they sleep like that as well, so they can flee or fight or whatever they need to do. So it's quite good. I'm determined to try that. But you know, we're taught by. Oh yeah, I'll go on that. What I was about to say there a little bit later. Right. So barefoot again. Apparently, this reflexology, each part of your foot apparently is connected directly to an internal organ. Who knew? I didn't know that. So apparently that's true. So it's something I'm trying to research to see if, not research, investigate in an artistic way rather than a scientific way. What effect going barefoot has on my internal organ health. But I don't know if you can see. Does anyone know about this sort of thing? Do you know about this sort of thing? Yeah. That says stomach there. I've actually noticed online there's several different foot charts and seeing if they're all, if it's just a quackery or if they actually do correspond to each other. And they do sort of. The diagrams are slightly different each depending on which website you go on, but they're basically the same. Right, so I'm going to just read out another couple of things as well, which I've been finding. So, forest bathing, for example. Forest bathing is a thing. It started in Japan, there's a word for it, the Japanese decided, well, found that going for a walk for no other purpose than just general good health and well-being is very good for you. So they've noticed that what they call forest bathing, walking in the woods. It promotes health and helps disease prevention. And I've got the word here, Shinrin-yoku. Does anyone know about that? I thought you'd all be into all that sort of thing, forest bathing. Anyway, so it increases natural killer cells and activity in anti-cancer cells, reduces blood pressure and heart rate, preventing hypertension and something diseases. I can't read what I'm writing. It reduces stress hormones, increases parasympathetic nerve activity, and reduces the activity of sympathetic nerves to stabilise the balance of the autonomic nervous system, whatever that is. Improves sleep, increases levels of serum adiponectin, and there's another very long word, sulfate or something like that. Reduces the profile of mood states, and something scores for anxiety, depression, anger, fatigue, and confusion. So all those things are reduced. Increases scores for vigor and preventative effects on depression. Volatile, this is the thing that comes out of the leaves. Volatile substances called phytoncides. You know about that? I thought Harvard people would be really up on all these things, so I'm really pleased to be able to be giving you some information. And they're wood essential oils, apparently, and those help reduce stress, especially techno stress. Apparently, we were all suffering from techno stress. Induces almost all non-communicable diseases, such as cancers, hypertension, depression, cardiovascular diseases, stroke, panic disorder, gastric ulcer, obesity, alcoholism, eating disorder. So is anyone suffering from any of these? You should get in the woods more often, if you are, because I guess probably you're all okay, you guys. Swimming in cold water, so we talked about that. It says here the studies are inconclusive at present, but it's clear that there is an increasing scientific support that voluntary exposure to cold water, as opposed to falling in accidentally, may have some beneficial health effects. So I thought there'd be much more science saying, yes, it's right, it's good. But anyway, but there is a need for new controlled research studies that are specifically focused on the topic. Okay, so there's lots of anecdotal sort of evidence to say, I'm remembering the article I read here, to say that it looks like it's really good for you, but there's nothing really, there's a lot of, yes, going cold water, the people who are going in cold water voluntarily are benefiting from certain effects, but there's other things like their lifestyle generally. People going for cold water generally are more affluent, middle class, so there may be those sort of things that are helping them as well. So, okay. So I'm not going to go into all of the things that I'm finding about lifestyle, but foraging, for example, exposure to microorganisms, bacteria, is supposed to be very, very good for you as well. So buying things from the shops, less so. I watched a program recently about fruit and veg that comes from Spain. Me and my other half, we used to say during the winter you have to buy sort of stuff from abroad because we haven't got anything really in season in this country. So, okay, how far can we source our fruit and veg from? So we said Spain. It's our kind of California, isn't it? It's our sort of south coast Spain, isn't it? We haven't got a warm climate here during the winter. Spain's okay. And this program showed you that everything's under polytunnels, and the polytunnels themselves are plastic polytunnels. It's about 100 square miles of polytunnels at one place in South Spain. And the polythene itself, every two or 3 years, has to be all taken off because it's perishing, because the sun's blasting down it. And they just dump it down by the estuaries, and it compacts and it goes on it. And eventually, it sloughs up into little fibres and things like that, and just goes into the Mediterranean Sea. And the workers as well, they're all, I mean, literally all of them, African migrants who are not given any proper rights, even though Spain is European, and just by law meant to give them rights. The rights are compromised left, right, centre. Their accommodation is awful, and the worst thing for it, the guy that was being interviewed was saying, "We've come to Europe. Our folks back at home expect us to do well because we've come to Europe. The life here is intolerable, but I can't go back to Africa because it would be just so demoralising." I can't remember the word he uses, but it'd be very bad for their reputation to go back to Africa and say, "I failed in Europe." So they're basically almost slaves in Spain, which makes me feel when I go into these supermarkets, you see just fields of plastic of fruit and veg, all plasticized. It just makes me feel like I don't want anything to do with that anymore. Which is why I like taking some food off the ground, off the land. It's just there, and it's in abundance. So why buy it elsewhere? So anyway, as an artist, I've been trying to say, right, okay, the sculpture that I'm making, no one really particularly likes or wants classical Greek scenes. They want something else. So, or they're not even buying it. So they're interested in what I'm doing. So I'm thinking, right, I have been thinking for some time. I want to now use my skill that I learned as a sculptor to talk about what I'm finding out here. And so it occurred to me, I thought, right, I'm living a different life, and it seems to be doing me very, very good. And it seems to me that all the things that we've decided, so we've made cars, and we've made buildings, and we've made farms, and etc. And they're all us changing the environment to suit us. Whereas, in actual fact, and this is why I got this picture of your man, because I'm thinking, right, okay, what are we designed to do? We've got this body and this mind and this sort of spiritual resource, but what is it for? Everything we're doing is imposing upon the environment, we're changing everything to suit this form, but that's not what this form's for. This form developed out of the mud and the mire to respond to the environment, and it responds very well. It responds well to being kicked about a bit. It responds well to being made hungry for a while. It responds very well to all sorts of slightly strenuous situations. So I've now decided, right, I'm going to investigate these things I'm learning a bit more energetically. So, for example, barefoot running was the first thing I decided. I got this inkling that there's something more about us than we're using ourselves for at the moment. So, the posture, for example, when you're running along, if you're running with shoes, the shoe is designed for you to be pushed forward. It's got a slightly rising heel, and everything about it actually compromises your well-being as a runner, whereas running barefoot doesn't, and it changes when you run barefoot. Changes the whole configuration of your foot. It spreads more and changes the way you think and your brain works when you're running as well. So all these things are starting to fascinate me, and more as time went on. There's the cold water response, for example. Did you know that when water hits your face, we have sensors in our face which makes our heart rate go straight down? So if we actually plunge into water, there's all sorts of physiological reactions to that. So we've got all these systems in us which we don't really use or know about most of the time, and many of them are redundant or atrophied or completely forgotten about. And I suspect, and I'm going to try and investigate this at great detail, that there is much more to us than we have given ourselves credit for. Now, that's not to say I don't agree with technology, because I think we as an investigating creature want to go to the stars, and that's that's great, and we want to do this, that, and the other. But I feel like it's a shame that we lose all the things we had before as well. I think I want it all. I don't want just to keep moving this way and forgetting all about that. I want the whole lot. And I feel most people's lives are just a little bit insipid, a bit sort of uninteresting. I've been on Concord, I've travelled tri-street sound, I've been on really, really fast motorbikes, I've skydived, all these things, they're fantastic, but they don't really fulfill your life very much. Sitting in the Concord at tri-street sound, you're just sitting, felt that slightly afterburners kicked off a little bit, and it may have just made the champagne wobble a bit, but that's as far as it got. You know, it wasn't any, wow, I'm jumping into tri-street sound! You know, and the box were quite nice, they were nice leather box, leather backings in the toilets. Also, yeah, fascinating in the Concord. But it's not like life-affirming experience. And most of modern life, I find leaves me a little cold. I don't find it's really, really good. So I want modern life. I want to be, championing out, going out into the Mars and the rest of it. But I also want to find out and enjoy everything we've had before. And so I kind of got more time. Right, so, okay, so this investigation is compromised in so many ways. And this is kind of the talk, what it talks about can we be at one with nature without things getting in the way. So this is what I'm up against. So if I was to go hunting, so I'm learning, for example, the characteristics of the pheasant. Pheasant is really good. The pheasant will allow you so close, and if you can start going closer to its distance, away from you, further than that, you see. And it's very, very good. It won't let you get any closer. It's always going that way. It knows you're there, it's going that way. Pigeons, the moment they see you, they go. But pheasant are quite interesting, and they've only got like a 10-second flight. So if you duplicate flight, I'm trying to investigate, can you chase it to where it landed? And is it exhausted? Will it be exhausted by the time you get to it? And can you catch it? But all this sort of thing about trying to catch and chase down animals needs space. And there's no place space because everywhere there's these sort of things. So I've just look at it. It's just everywhere I go. That's a little what's it called? That place near Sainsbury's. And there you go. More. And look, people have them right outside their house. And I rather suspect actually we could solve a lot of traffic problem or parking problems. People love their cars so much. Why don't they just design the front of the houses so they can't just drive into the house? You don't have to get out of the car at all. They can stay in their car and get out if they need to go to the loo. The house can just go down in front of the car. The car just goes in. The car there. Then they've got their drive. Then they can have some sort of garden in front, as it used to be when these houses were first built. So look, they know it, don't they? So that just restricts my access to land, and I'm not happy with just a little postage stamp sized garden and a little house and some roads to drive around. I want that much land. So I find that's really annoying. So and this is the other thing. So Nick would say, yeah, that needs to go straight away. Actually, can you read that? Does anyone know what it says? It's code. It says try the police keep out. That's what we think. It actually says reserved for Andrew Hood. But that's the other thing. So I can't just go chasing Mr. Pheasant. Try and experiment how to catch that pheasant, because that's what I come across. Not that I tend to take much notice, but I have to be aware of someone might point a gun on you and say, "Get off my land." This machine here is the thing that I fear most. I know it's sound. It's the most versatile machine I know. It looks like a golf caddy thing, doesn't it? And yet it can go up hills like that, even when they're muddy, and down hills like that, and it can be on you in 2 minutes from half a mile away or more. So I'll hear it possibly online there, absolutely thinking, private land, it's all to myself, and then I'll hear that noise. And that's when I need to make sure that I'm really undercover and can't be seen. And normally they'll come upon me when I'm actually packing up. Because I go into the land after dark, set up in the dark, but then I tend to like to lie in till 9 o'clock. And then it's of course bright daylight. And so you've got to cross possibly fields, certainly you've got to get through their land in broad daylight. And this machine is running around. So you can think, I can hear it over there, it's miles away. But then it's suddenly there, before you know it. So if you ever see that in the slides, shout. Gamekeeper! No, I shall run. So I don't know what they're called. They've got a name, those things. Anyway. Okay, so the other thing is, apart from actual access to land, is commerce. So, okay, can you explain to me what being barefoot means? Does it mean putting on these? Because these are barefoot shoes. And I just understand it. So the barefoot one, anyone's going on, you can buy all of this kit and more. So when I see people running, they've got this thing on their arms, they've got these things on their head, they've got very, very colourful, expensive clothes on, they'll have some sort of footwear as well. And yet running is the thing you can do utterly naked if you're legally allowed to do so. It needs no kit at all. In fact, the less kit you've got, the more you can engage with the running. action, experience. So yeah, there's all sorts of things. You can track your run. You can just, that's occasion that's okay. Track your run, that's fine. But people seem to want to buy something for everything they do. And I don't know if they want to automatically, or because they're made to believe they must have kit to engage in any activity. When I was a lifeguard, I was astonished. You're not supposed to bring anything into the pool because it's a swimming pool. But they used to have this little bag thing. Out of it would come these little fins, these short fins, which they put on, and they'd have these fins for their hands. They'd have a thing which goes around their waist. I don't know, with a fin that comes out like that. And some of them, they would have little. So the swimming pool itself would provide you with a little watch thing because there were little sensors at each end of the pool, so you could track your times and things like that, how much you've done. And they had their own watch thing, and they do all this before they go in. And hats, goggles. The kit that was brought in to go swimming, again, another thing you can actually do naked if you really wanted to. But now you've got to have so much kit. So there's another. Say hello to barefoot shoes. Tired feet, barefoot shoes. But this kind of thing goes into every aspect of our life. So I don't know how many of you clean your teeth with the machine, read a book with the machine. Every single thing, there's a load of kit for kids to have. More kit. Climbing trees. See, that's learning how to use ropes. It's not climbing trees. But you type into the internet climbing trees, that's what you'll get, that sort of thing. And you get this vacuous looking man in a tree climbing website. He's not climbing a tree, is he? And this is the thing I'm up against all the time. And again, I'm not saying any of this is wrong. I'm just saying that at every single turn that you make to try and do something, that there's umpteen things in the way or impinging on the experience of that something you're trying to experience. So another example I'll give is I've mentioned about the aircraft noise at the moment. Navigating through woods in the dark is a skill, actually. And it actually is easier if it's silent. And I know all the other creatures in the woods also require silence. They don't mind each other making noises. They rely on each other making noises, because then they can get the sense of what's going on in the wood, and I can get the sense of what's going on. If I hear a cuckoo going, or I can hear owls going, or whatever, I know the wood's dynamics working properly. But if everything's drowned out by this of an aeroplane, which here, I'm really surprised, I didn't realise how bad it was here, but there are airplanes right up to 11 o'clock at night, and then it impinges further. And then they start again at 6 o'clock in the morning, or it impinges earlier. So you're trying to go through the woods, and I don't know why it is. So if you had your eyes closed and I was trying to navigate through here, it'd be easier if it's silent. I don't know. I have heard, in fact, seen on television, there's a man who can click, and he's blind, and he can click, and he can understand his environment by his clicks, and gets back to do the same sort of thing, things like that. So, so again, another little secret I've been finding out about human machine is that silence is, there's a sense that using, I'm guessing, sound, or the absence of annoying sound or unnatural sound. So I can sense there's a tree there. I may not be able to see it. I mean, I very often will look up because the sky, of course, is made of black. So you can work out that the tree comes down by the canopy. You can see there's a trunk up there, and it comes down, it must come down there. But even if I wasn't doing that, I can sense there's something there, if it's silent. You can have owls tweeting, hooting, things like that, it doesn't matter. But there's not this constant growl of engine noise. So I can avoid things, I can get through. And what I tend to do is I have my eyes shut anyway, because there are inevitably things sticking out, branches sticking out. So I'll go into the woods with my eyes shut, and I'll stop and I'll open my eyes, see what I can sense. So that'll be hearing and also looking, so you get a sense of something over there, something down there. Then you shut your eyes, and you can move 3 or 4, maybe 5 paces. Then you have to stop again, and don't wave your eyes or head around to look around, just because there might be that branch right there, and you just poke your eye out. So even navigating through the woods in the dark is interfered with to a great degree by the noise of aircraft, and sometimes it's now 2 aircraft in the sky. So there used to be, I remember before COVID, or long before COVID, back in the 90s, there was a good 2-minute break between each aeroplane. And in fact, I remember there was a time that it said that the aircraft had to have that break, just so they weren't interfered, they didn't get disturbance from the air from the previous aircraft. And now there's aircraft after aircraft, and it just doesn't stop. And then, I know, normally all fairly up, when the aircraft is quiet in the day, there's this wretched, I won't say what he's called, what you call him, but the acrobat chap. I remember I used to think, oh, that's great, but now I just find it's very, very annoying. Yeah, every time, so it almost comes to the point where you think, oh, the sun's out, oh no, God. And it really is that sort of thing. And I know he's only there for 20 minutes and then he's gone for a while, but then he comes back, so it's about 4 times a day he's there, or that aeroplane thing, and aeroplane thing. So, yeah, so, yeah, and I just think to myself, I know there are animals that require quiet for their mating. So they need to be able to find their mate. They need to have dark when it's meant to be dark. So at the moment there's the glowworms out at the moment, aren't there? And I know this is males looking for females. Which is the one that glows? Females, okay. And there's loads at the back of Half Hill. And I dare say if there's other lights around, the male's going to go around. Well, I don't know. I don't really want to mount an LED light. So I'd rather mount a proper female glowworm, but you know. So yeah, so there's all that going on. I find that without us realising, so when I talk about the aircraft noise, people say, oh, I've done noticed it. And I guess that's because we're all indoors all the time, and when we travel, we're in the car, and we're probably making a lot of noise ourselves. So we don't know the degradation that's happening at a rampant level now, all the time. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I've noticed, for example, when I first started going out 9 years ago or so, nearly 9 years ago, I used to have a head net and insect repellent because I was bothered by insects all night, flying insects, fighting for flying insects. And now I don't go out with anything to combat flying insects at night, which is astonishing. I think we've all heard about the insect crash anyway. And I wonder why that's happened. And wonder why nobody seems to be bothered. I mean, I have to say, it's quite nice to go to sleep and not have to go, have all this stuff over me and just, lie there with no protection. But I do, when I find that I'm intensely bothered by one mosquito during the night, I just find there's something wrong. I was a squaddy a long time ago and we went to exercise in Poland, and I remember you just have to lie there because we did most work at night, and you just lie there, and there would be this. You learn that there are different groups of insects, flying insects, different types of flies that come through and just bother you. You have to just lie there, just put up with it, and they bite you and things like that. And then they would go off, and then there'd be a different group of insects. So the air back in the 90s, I think it was, early 90s, was thick with flying, biting insects in different sorts, and they used to come in as a mass, and they had their different sort of attributes and characteristics. But that doesn't happen anymore at all, which is very, very, very sad. So, okay, so there's another thing. So you can't even read a book, you've got to have a machine. So, and I have to acknowledge, you can have all the books in the world on that machine, and that's great. But it doesn't smell like a book, does it? It doesn't feel like a book, and oh yeah, and so I've shown you my bathroom, and that's the bathroom that most people, I'm guessing, would aspire to. My ideal home. So okay, we'll go on to the next thing there. There's a thing that keeps your ideal home ideal, which is like this Rudolph stuff that everyone seems to be using everywhere. And again, going back to that picture of my impact on the, I shouldn't say impact, I hate the word impact, I mean effect. My effect on the world compared to the effect that lots of people like to have on their home ground. I think that's just a shame. So, I was the person that I probably owned some of this once upon a time. Back in the days when I was travelling on Concord and riding around on motorbikes, I probably would have said, oh yeah, kill the weeds, bring in things, coming up through the gravel. And it seems strange that difficult circumstances has made me feel so different. Okay, so. Wait, okay, that's good. So now, as I said, I'm trying to put into, trying to make a language out of what I'm what I'm learning, and trying to show people, other than talking about it, in a more pictorial way. So I'm trying to think, how do I describe what I've learned, how I'm feeling about me and my place in the world, on the planet. How do I depict that in sculpture? So I've been doing lots of going out in the woods and drawing, and trying to, instead of just drawing the plants or the animals, I want to try and make a sort of fictional based on the figure as part of the natural environment. So it's important to go out there and draw. Again, you know, there was a time when I would have to you couldn't just sit in the woods and draw without being bothered by flies. Now I don't, it doesn't matter at all. So I'm just sitting there drawing and just learning. I think there's quite a lot of things that do inspire me. So around here, trees. I know James not too keen on beech trees, but they do have lovely root systems. And just, especially if there's a sunken road or track here, all roots pour over the bank. I'm just really loving that. So I'm trying to study those, and I'm trying to put a figure, a fictional, sort of almost folklorish, fantasy figure that lives in the woods, possibly, that haunts the woods. Yeah, so that's, and ultimately what I want to do is, once I've done the drawings, I want to produce a series of slate carvings of a certain scene. So, and I'm envisaging between 12 and 20 slate carvings. So, okay, let's just leave the thing. Oh yeah, because I'm now getting quite old, I have noticed that sometimes when I'm touching the tree or whatever, that my hands, especially this hand, especially the right hand, is not looking very dissimilar to the bark of the tree as the skin gets older, it's increasing. It actually becomes more interesting. I find it's more like the bark that I'm living so close beside. So yeah, okay. This is an example of what I'm trying to do. So it's going to be tall order to try and translate this or simplify this enough into a figure, a scene that can go on slate. I don't know if are you aware of slates? You know about slate? It's a black stone made out of mud, and it's lead. So yeah, we all know about slate, don't we? Yeah, but it actually lends itself very well to very shiny relief carving. So I can carve into it on a flat surface, and it makes a nice semi 3D picture. I've got one loaded up somewhere, which will come across shortly. So yeah, there's the plug. Keep that. Sorry. And reserved for Andrew Hood, and that's when I'm going with the bicycle. There's all sorts of problems there because there's thick undergrowth very often. That's where you want to get into thick undergrowth, so you can't be found. Bringing that bicycle in there in the dark is actually quite difficult as well. But that's what you've got to do. So I'm having great fun because all of these. This isn't a very good photograph, but all of these they're from actual drawings I've done out in the field. And I've brought the drawings back into the studio and embellished them a little bit, and then studied drapery and things like that, and then put that figure in there. And I'm finding great fun doing that. So, yeah. Oh, voice is shut out. Can't keep around. Okay, this is another one. Again, I'm romanticising the whole thing about being in the woods, being part of the woods, not having any harmful impact. So this is just figure sleeping amongst all the broken wretched beech leaves. I'll just talk about that just quickly. When I first came here, it was like, oh, this is paradise. There's so many woods, and I can just nestle in the woods somewhere. I can just literally flop out of the studio. Within 10 minutes, I'll be asleep, and I can go running through the woods and things like that. But in actual fact, this place is full of flint. And it's full of beech nuts. And beech nuts are the worst. They're worse than flint. I don't mind flint. You can mostly flint when it's exposed on footpaths. It's warm actually, especially that way down to Maple Durham. Actually, where I saw you yesterday, after where I saw you, it's very flinty along there. But all the flint's actually quite warm, so it chops out and it's quite unpleasant, but it's not sharp. These little tiny beach trees. It's fine when it's very, very wet because they soften a little bit. But when it's dry, and autumn when they're really thick and fast down there, it's the one thing I don't like. It's the one thing as barefoot runner or person I find most uncomfortable. So all the other nuts as well, they're not very good, you know, and acorns, things like that, but they're not as bloody awful as beech nuts. So you know, come here. And the other thing is pretty much all of the undergrowth is just brambles up here. I don't know if you've noticed that as you go walking. So it's everything that as a barefoot runner don't want. I do find myself going on and even on the road. So sometimes I'll go on a road to avoid certain uncomfortable parts of the woods. And then because the trees are over the woods, I don't know if you've noticed as well, where road is underneath tree cover, it deteriorates. So all you do get is the stony bits in the tarmac, and the actual conglomerate, or the thing that binds the stones, wears away. So you get this little stone bits sticking out. And I don't know if it's, what do you guys know, whether the leaves are adding pH, you know, making it acidic or very alkaline or whatever, corrosive anyway, and then dripping onto the road and making the road corrode, or is it because the water gathers and so the drops are heavier as they hit on the road, or what? Or is it because being underneath the canopy, the roads are wet for longer, and therefore it has, because yeah, apparently it's rains acid these days, isn't it? So I wonder if that gives it more time to corrode the road. Anyway, so you know, even when you go out the road, the wretched beech trees causing me all sorts of problems as well. So yeah, so I'm with James on the not particularly liking beech trees. Okay, one of the things I like about going to the woods at night, you don't know what's there, you don't know what you're going to wake up. The good thing about private land is that you know you're not going to wake up to dog poo or rubbish. Although I haven't said that, there is quite a lot of landowner rubbish. Fertiliser bags, shotgun cartridges and things like that. I don't find, no, I don't like it. It's not as offensive as coming across the rubbish that the general public leave behind. And but sometimes you find next to a decomposed body or an actual skull, which is quite funny. So that's another drawer. Just going to go into slate, something like that, and have lots of greenery there and things like that. So yeah. So oh yeah. So I do. My other half says, Andrew, make the water level come up here. So I don't know. There's lots of people say, oh, you've got to have some sort of. If anyone's going to be interested in what you're doing, you've got to show flesh. And yeah. So I don't know about that one, but it's and I was talking about it to Alistair just before we started. Waterways over here. Well, there aren't any. There's absolutely no waterways. It's just bereft, apart from the Thames. On the other side, there's brooks and whatever you call them, rivulets and things like that, by the dozen. So I was able to swim about quite happily all sorts of places. Now over here, I can't find any at all. As I say, I have to go all the way down to Henley Way.
You know the Chilterns are free training.
Oh, I know.
It's as if it was a moral point.
No,
waterways. Yeah. There've never been any waterways.
No, I know that, but I didn't know that when I came and I just thought, oh, it's the same everywhere. And I'm astonished to find how few water bodies there are. And of course, the other side of the river, there's the gravel pits as well, which is great because the ex-gravel pits where you get in there and swim around as well. So, yeah. Okay. But again, this is another thing where I find that physical, human features are very, very often. I guess that's what the Green Man things are. You go into, you can look into the woods, or maybe half light or twilight. You can think you see folkloric figures and things like that. And I find that's probably because there's much about us that looks sometimes very much like natural forms as well that are out there in the woods. And I want to investigate that further and produce some really good pictures and ultimately stone carvings as well. So yeah. Okay. Very another activity, trying to climb trees. Hunting, okay. This one I want to improve as well. This hand should actually be holding, having got, you know, there's the feathers there and the creature flying away. But I think you should have actually caught hold of some feathers or whatever. So that's got to be improved. Well, they've all got to be improved. They're all fairly early drafts. Okay, this is quite gruesome. So again, this over here, there's lots of close studies of, this is in the spring, things sprouting out of the branches. So I quite enjoy doing, can't really see it very well in this photograph. And because I'm not got endless supplies of paper, I just use whatever paper I got. So there's a very white piece of paper here and a very plain piece of paper there. But quite enjoyed doing that. So again, it's sort of uglified. Well, maybe you might say I haven't uglified, maybe it's exactly the same actually. You are ugly already. The face to make it look sort of part of the woods, and yeah, go from there. So again, can you imagine the challenges I'm going to have when it comes to doing that in slate? Oh yeah, right. This is the thing. I was going to put out on the interweb. I had this sort of feeling that some of what haunts the woods should have a sound that the person that either instills fear in villages or hamlets in around the children's, or joy. So you remember Tarzan used to do his call, you know, and everyone knows Tarzan's call. And there's very other fictional characters that have got this call, and I feel like, wow, I should have a call. So you know, when people hear this sound in the woods, they go, oh, there's Andrew up in the woods somewhere. so this, as yet, this hasn't got a voice coming out, but it will do. Right?
What is your call?
I haven't got one yet. I don't know. I want to
practice.
I haven't. No, and I just someone actually suggested don't actually try it, because I've tried physically making different sounds. Most of them hurt my throat. So I think. So someone, he's called Peter Wheat. I don't know if anyone knows him. He's very good. He does. Yeah, you know, don't you? He suggested that there's you can find something to bash together to make a noise, or noise, or something like that. And yeah, and then when anyone hears that, they know to get their daughters in and lock them up. You know, that man is in the woods. So yeah. So anyway, so this is the sort of fun you can have. Oh yeah, this is a thing about barefooting as well. Grounding. So I never knew about grounding. Earthing as well. Do you know all about that? Do you know about grounding and earthing? Apparently, there are electrical fields and other things happening. So when you touch the actual earth, your body and everything else about you benefits from these fields. And that's the thing about electric fields. When you're at home and your bed is just that way all the time, apparently you should sleep with your head facing south. Does anyone know that? Now I've tried to find out actually, because I know when I set up, I have a feeling that I want to sleep in one way or another. I don't know what drives that feeling. Sometimes I have to override that because the wind's blowing that way and I need to configure my cover this way to keep me dry or out of the wind. So I can't always just go where I want to sleep. But I do feel there's probably something worth investigating there as well about electrical fields and our relation to them, and how they're being compromised possibly by the way we live with other electrical fields produced by these gadgets we have everywhere. So I don't know. I'm sure you guys know more about that than I do, but it's something I'm quite happy to investigate further. Okay, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, so just as quickly, this is an example of a slate carving. It's not a particularly good one. It's a low cost commission I had. Again, you can see the feet beating. It's meant to be a column of water and the swimmer, ocean swimmer, and there's all the things, you know, people who like going swimming don't necessarily realise all the creepy crawlies that are underneath them. And I just wanted to depict that. So there's a lamprey there, and there's other all sorts of fish and things like that. But this is the sort of thing you can do with slate. It's a lovely, lovely material. It shines up really nicely. You can be quite detailed in what you do. So that's quite a small one. Actually, much bigger one than that. So I think we can do that. Okay, this is an example of one that's been done already. The overcoming of fear. So when you go into a body of water, it's dark under there. So one of the things I'm trying to learn about is overcoming fear as well. Is plunging down into that dark. And we have all these sort of fears about what's down there. Even though we know there aren't any monsters down there, but you know, if you try and go down and put your hand down there and touch this, it's a horrible, horrible feeling, that overcoming that, going down. So you do it, surface diving, down you go. So there's a little body there. And I like this because it's just living stone, I think. The stone's just been broken off. And that gave a nice sort of looks like how I feel about the water I'm reading. So, okay. Oh yeah, that was a commission thing. So, and then finally, not really finally, I think, because of children's health and walkers and things like that, I want to concentrate on the folklore as well, because this country is very well endowed with folklore. Some of it's most of it's made up, but anyway, it's something I want to do. So I want to do a lot more Green Man figures. There's some drawings preparatory to them. And, oh yeah, so the fantasy aspect as well. See, I find that most of modern life has no fantasy. There's no excitement. It's all about the tech and about the money and the having. But there's no fantasy. I think it's all. And I know this will probably seem very problematic to this day, or maybe seen as misogynistic possibly, or racist or something. I don't know. It'll be something. But I find it's wonderful. So I love that artist and that. You know, this isn't what I'm imagining happens when I go there, but it probably might be. You know. Andrew, you're dirty thing. You haven't had a shower for ages. Get in the water. I'm going to get you down there. So, and actually, this painting, there's other female figures. All, oh, come on into it. So, it's lovely. I can't remember who painted that, but do you agree? It's wonderful. He's a little fawn. He's got little pointy ears and hoofs and things like that. It's very unfortunate, you know, to be caught by all these. Nymphs and Helix and the nymphs, that's actually one. Does anyone know that? The story about that? Anyway, so he's just some chap wandering in, and these ladies trying to entice him into the water with them. There we go. And so there, I think that's my last photo. So again, this is what I do lots of videos now, and I'll put that as my sort of, it's got Hood in the Wood written around it as my sign-off photo. Yeah. So right, any questions? That's all there is. Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, before you ask me, when I was an employee, each department had to put someone up to talk about team meetings and things like that, had to talk about what they're doing at work and things like that. And I suffered, as I'm sure many employers do, imposter syndrome. That you be put up there, talk about your role or your part of the company, and someone would stand up and say, "You don't know what you're talking about, do you, Andrew?" But now it's really great because I can just talk about for what I do forever now, and it doesn't matter. Someone can say, "You know what you're talking about?" I'm saying, "Well, if there's anything I don't know, it's because I don't want to know it or haven't learned it yet." So it doesn't matter. So yeah. So. Who's joining me in the woods tonight? That's what I want. Yes.
Would you accept a torch for a news for a birthday present?
No, torch definitely not. I do bring one in case it all goes horribly wrong. Something happens that I need light. I take it as personal pride to be able to set up and get into the woods wherever I want to without any light at all.
It must be quite challenging though, getting everything off your bike, trying to work this in the pitch.
And you've got to have strategies so that you can't lose your stuff. So I'm going to put things down, and I need to go to that tree there to attach my thing, and then find, I can't find you. Where so you have to have strategies to prevent that. Yeah, so no torches, no. Not least because people will quite possibly see you. And even if it's not landowner, it might be someone who might want to investigate what you're doing, and you don't want to be investigated when you're just trying to get to sleep. So yeah. So thank you, but I've had torches anyway. So, yeah.
Have you got any interesting sort of stories about meeting animals or when you're asleep?
Yes, I do. Not necessarily when I'm asleep, because I do hear animals. In fact, that's another thing. One of the things I'm telling you about all these things I'm trying to discover about us. I didn't realise, but when you're asleep, your ears, and there's a part of your brain who's never asleep, and it's like a little radar. And it has this, your brain has this sorting system, it seems to me. So I can wake up and know that I've heard things and remember what I've heard, but I've not been woken up by them. So I can hear heavier rainfall, and there's one thing I've heard deer come close to me, not realising I'm there, and then clearly they've realised I'm there, and they've gallop off. So I've heard this earth going flying all over the place, they've changed direction and going off. badgers are the ones, they are so single-minded, they don't know you're there in front of them, and they'll just come barging up to you. And of course, because they're low to the ground, their stomachs going on the ground as well, and they just charge through the undergrowth, making noise like an animal 5 times bigger than they are. And it's very, very frightening. I remember one occasion on the Ingerpool stage actually, there was this crashing, literally crashing, like, I don't know if anyone read Shardik by Richard Adams, yeah? It's like the beast running away from the fire, you know, crashing through the undergrowth. And I thought, it's an escaped, I don't know, large dog or something like that. So I stood there like this. And then suddenly because, as I say, it's very rare so dark you can't see it. So I saw this thing come out, badger come out. And I kind of go, ugh, like that, to to stop it. And it's really funny, they have this characteristic, this has happened more than 3 times, where it's charging towards you, you make a noise to say, stop, I'm here, and it kind of looks up, and it just goes off like this, as if to say, I wasn't going that way anyway. It's very, very strange. It's only the badgers that do that. And, so yeah, other animals, I've got this, so waking me up in the night, no, except, I put a little thing out recently on facial media about when a slug is on you. Somehow you know, and it doesn't make a noise. It has no weight that you can perceive, but you know it. And when there's a slug on the thing I rest my head on or whatever, or maybe even on my head or whatever, the hand goes directly to it, grabs it, and throws it away. So it's no like, oh, there's something on me. I'm just like, where is it? What is it? I don't know how that's a strange thing. So I don't know what's going on there. It's a very, very fascinating attribute of, and it happens every single time. It's happened several times. In fact, there are some woods I don't go to anymore, because I label the places I go to and will go back to. My own labels are Nightingale Wood or Slug Wood in one case, and I don't go there unless I really have to, because there's the one wood particularly that's full of slugs, and always full of slugs in a lot of time of year, and I only go there if the weather conditions dictate that I must go there because there's nowhere else to go. And it's, yeah, every single time, your hand goes directly to where it is, and it's like, yeah, and that's straight away. They're just horrible things. Of course, they leave a nasty mark on your hat, and there's nothing worse than cycling or walking out of the woods with this black hat and things like that. So, yeah. Anything else?
I was going to give an apology. Nick has COVID on our single account.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, back up, Nick.
I know. I liked the waterhouse paintings.
Oh, well done. Thank you. 10 marks for you.
No, I was just going to. This year we've noticed a change when we were shearing all sheep. We got really, really bothered by mozzies, which was like something, the like of which also huge. And when you're shearing, there's nothing you can do about it, you just get covered. But the other thing we've noticed was massive ticks.
Worry about ticks. Yeah, if there's anything I worry about, ticks the most. Now, that's why I have a ground sheep. When I was a Scotty, and when I first started doing this, I thought, ground sheep for girls, sort of, excuse me, girls. But that's, and it was a nonsense, and then I became aware of ticks, and I've had a tick or two. I've got this little credit card thing with little grooves, 2 different size grooves, so you're meant to not stress the creature, you're meant to lift it off, thing, yeah, and it pulls the skin right out when because it's really burrowed in the skin, so when you're pulling it up, you've got to put up that pain, so the skin gets drawn out with it, and then it pops off. And then I put it on the microscope and I look at it. Yeah, so, just going in light, yeah. I was woken up very recently. In fact, this has happened on Christmas morning. I'll talk about Christmas morning. I went out to sleep out quite far north from here, and I was woken up. It was about 4 in the morning, so it's well dark. Christmas time. By this very, very, very energetic noise. And it wasn't anything I recognised. It wasn't deep enough to be a bee or a hornet or anything like that. Or a wasp. It wasn't the right term for a wasp. And anyway, so it was trapped underneath my canopy, and I was going, eventually I got out, and it came out with me, and was going for me. So I had my sleeping bag, I was doing this windmill to get rid of this thing. And one thing that happened is I dislodged a slate, and I sort of a flint stone, and I think it must have been, I think it's an Asian hornet personally, because it wasn't one that I'd heard of before. The sound was just so very high, so very, very energetic and annoying. So I was having this, mortal fight to the death with this this creature on Christmas morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then recently, more recently, last week or possibly the week before, I was sleeping and I heard this buzzing, and it sounded like a bumblebee just going. You know how they go from one little bloom to the next, but it was sort of like couldn't take off, and then would take off, and then couldn't take off, and then take. Anyway, so I wanted to shoo it away, but I thought, well, it's not really close enough to my head to worry about. I'm just going to just do this and go to sleep. And then when I was packing up, this apparition came over my shoulder, and it went down into this hole in a branch, or not branch, it's an actual small tree that had fallen, had a little hole in it, and that's where I actually attached my canopy to. And it was this magnificent hornet. It was absolutely gorgeous to see, because the sun was shining through it as well, so its wings were illuminated more than they would be. It just drifted in, didn't want to know anything about me, it just drifted in and then into its little hole. And I've been back several times, wanted to take photographs of it coming out the hole, because I didn't have any actual photographic evidence of the thing. But yeah, so there's constantly things going on about it. Yeah. I think lavender apparently is supposed to keep ticks away, isn't it?
I always tuck my trousers into my socks.
Yeah, I do all that. Yeah, I suppose.
You
I don't go barefoot. Oh, that's one thing I will say. I don't go out at night. I don't go barefoot out at night because you've got to kick nettles and brambles out of the way to get yourself down. So I'm always shod. And yeah. Anyway, we're probably running out of time, aren't we?
9:10, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Your foray into hunting. What are you going to use for hunting?
Right.
Sort of hunting.
Something I was really going to say, and I didn't say. It's almost key to the point. Where did we become the human beings that we are today? At what point in history? I know we've got those photographs of us growing out of my becoming apes and things like that. But there's a point when we became who we are today. So the mental processes, the physical form, and the efficacies we have today. And I suspect, at that time, we had more physical and mental attributes than we have now. I feel we are now on a downward slope because technology is taking everything away, and with AI coming, everything's going to be taken away. We're not going to be humans in the glory that we were. And what's the question? Hunting. Yeah. So, I want to know what it was like before fire, before farming, because I think that's when we were humans before we farmed and had fire. I think we were fully formed as we are now. I want to become, atavistic is the word, go back to that time and experience, as an artist, I want to experience what it's like to be, I've been born like this, I want to now experience what we're meant to experience. So the fears and the difficulties and the hungers and the lusts and the desires and all the other things that we were built to cope with. So the hunting, I've tried, I don't want to leave traps out and things like that because I don't want to harm, I don't want the animal suffering unduly. I have a trap where I have to man it, pull the log out and it springs up, and the weight goes down, it springs up and catches it. But I actually feel that what I call crash hunting is the thing that we are built to do, and that is to just travel through an environment, and then when the pheasant, I know the pheasant time is just probably where we came from. And I know the environment here isn't where we were built for this environment, but I wanted to still try and feel as much as possible. So, in answer to your question, the hunting is about just going out, possibly with stones or whatever, and then just, I talk about the pheasant, about it burst off, fly off. Now, I'm experimenting with running to where it's flown to, and hopefully, and I found out actually it can fly again, and ultimately it will fly into the trees if we keep going after it. So I want to see if there's any way around that, because I think pheasants are, no one wants them here, and they shouldn't be here, and I think that's what I'm going to go for. Squirrels, they're really easy, they'll just go for anything, because they're greedy for sods, and you can have a fairly rudimentary trap for that. But as I say, I've not really had much time to really get into this. I've done a few what I call crash hunting things, and I want to do it. No, again, I think there was a time when pre-bow and arrows even, pre any technologies, when we were just creatures running through the forest or whatever. I don't know, that's what I want to experience and see if it's possible. If it's not, then so what?
I think you're going to lose more weight.
Yeah.
That's on far, if you like, compared to some of the pheasants around.
But as I was saying earlier, there's so many difficulties with property boundaries, and there's all sorts of things that I haven't got the Serengeti plain, or I haven't got the vast jungles of Sarawak or anything like that to chase the unfortunate game through. But it's something I'm trying to develop, and even if you just go out and experiment with it a little bit, you learn quite a lot. It's funny how much you learn. So this thing about the pheasant, so for example, I thought I'd outwit the pheasant because it keeps that distance, and I thought, well, there's a tree there, so if I get behind the tree, I can actually advance really close to it because it's just behind the tree there. It knows not to let you get behind. If the head pops out, there you are. So it's very clever. Yeah, and then where they fly to, it seems like it's fly off randomly, but actually they are choosing where they go to. So they'll go over obstacles. So they'll go over thickets, or they'll go over water, or they'll go down a very precipitous hill, and so they seem to know that you're going to have trouble getting to me where I land. And they do this 10-second flight and they glide. And I think that's when they're looking. I think that's when they do. So they do this immediate get away by horses when they bolt. They just bolt. They don't care where they bolt. And then they bring their eyes back to you, and then they can look where you are, and then make a decision where they want to be as a result of that. So it's a work in progress. And I want to come out of the woods. I have this image. I want to come out of the woods with my game on my shoulder, and is it pheasants or squirrels or rabbits or whatever. I find that's yeah. Oh, yes. That's something I've not talked about, and it was written down. There's lots I haven't talked about. This is just too much to talk about. We aren't individual beings, and this book called Born to Run. Has anyone read that? Oh, okay. He talks about African tribes and how, certain African tribes, and apparently this is what we're built to be. We are born runners, and our superpower is that we can outrun every creature on the planet. We are superhuman. So he's going on about, we are the slowest of the animals equipped with fast animal equipment. So we have, stereoscopic vision, we have a head that doesn't wobble like this, like pigs do if they're running. And we can fix on our thing. But we are the slowest of all animals. So he couldn't understand, scientists and people he's talking to couldn't understand what's happening. Why are we equipped with so much? And our breathing mechanisms. We can breathe at will, whereas a rabbit or a hare, its lungs expand when its legs expand. It can only breathe as it's running, and its running speed is dictated by, so its breathing rate is dictated. We have heat loss systems that are better than any other creatures as well. So cooling systems. And so the running thing is apparently marathons are very, very popular because, in actual fact, the time it takes to chase down or gazelle or whatever as a community is anywhere between 2 and 5 hours, I think it is. And they were talking about you need the community because the animals aren't clever. If there's one that's been chased, it'll go back into the group of gazelles, and then another one will pop out, a fresh one. So then you go chase that, you can end up chasing a fresh one for all day, and then you're the one that suffers. Whereas the team of runners, and that includes pregnant women, old people, big, strong people, mostly like runners, barefoot, didn't bring anything with them, no bows and arrows or anything like that. They were just running this creature down to the ground, and within 2 and 3 hours, the creature's legs are folding. It's too hot, it can't cope with the endurance, and then just says, get on with it. I've had enough. Just tuck in, guys. So that's one of the superpowers we have, and I find that extremely fascinating. So this whole barefoot thing is really astonishing. And he says also that Aaron, he says anything from space shuttles to anything you can think of in science, it's stemmed from running and hunting. And it says that we, as hunters, you have to place yourself and think what the prey is thinking, which is something no other animal does really. Is we can place ourselves as an intellectual, again, it's a superpower. We can place ourselves in a different situation or a different animal and understand what it's going to do, and as a result, find ourselves there. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. I think we've got to stop. Contributions, by the way, there's a thing up the end there for £3 contribution if you can, or feel like you worth it. So yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Andrew.
you very much.